Greetings, all you Carrington Prize nominees out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor. This is Undeclared Bajor, a Star Trek Deep Space Nine rewatch. My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
What's up?
Today we're going to recap, discuss, and rate Season 3, Episode 16, Profit Motive. Alternate title, No More Mr. Nice Guy.
Okay, I can see where you're going there. All right.
Because that's kind of the goal of the episode, or what?
Yes, the goal, right?
I guess Profit Motive. I think pretty spot on title.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, with profit spelled the way it is, it would be hard to
a little bit of a spoiler.
Well, yeah, that's a fair point. It kind of is, but it would be hard to hit this episode more exactly than they did. With you got the pun with the two profits and motive. Yeah, it just works.
Yeah, I give that an A.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah. Our discussion will contain full spoilers for the series up through this episode. However, we will try to keep spoilers for later in the series to an appropriate minimum. We won't reveal anything too big, like when it turns out the Chief O'Brien storylines have been taking place 30 years in the past the whole time.
Wait. I don't see how that works.
I mean, that's the brilliance of it.
I mean, given what the next episode is about, that's also an interesting approach. But yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's a spoiler for next episode.
You spoiled something that happens in the very next episode.
This episode originally aired February 20th, 1995. It was written by the dynamic duo Ira Steven Behr, Robert Hewitt Wolfe, and directed by the man himself, Rene Auberjonois.
Yeah, does your I don't know if you were getting it from Wiki or whatever, does it mention William Stape in the writing?
No, I got it straight from the opening credits. Maybe I missed it.
No, that's absolutely what was in there, because apparently the story is quote based upon material by William N. Stape, but that's uncredited in the episode.
Oh, okay. So, is this like a Bill Finger situation? Do we need to write this wrong and make sure he gets credit?
I don't know. It's really, it's not specific in here on why or like what he contributed exactly. It says that like he's a newspaper and magazine writer who contributed story material to the Next Gen episode Homeward. That's the one with Worf's brother, like his human brother.
Right.
And then for which he received credit, and also an uncredited source for this episode. And so I'm like, I don't know what that'd be like. What did he do? And the other note of interest about him in the wiki is that in 2015, publisher Bear Manor Media released his first book, Star Trek Sex, analyzing the most sexually charged episodes of the original series.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. Go pick it up in
curious.
stores today. Probably not.
There's so many Star Trek books out there. I've never heard that twist before.
See, yeah, now I probably shouldn't have just Googled Star Trek sex in hindsight, but I did it now. So, it's like the fifth result, so that's not too far down. Yeah, it's available on Kindle for $6.90 or $9.95 and paperback $14.95, and that is an interesting cover. All right.
Mr. Crusher, come to my ready room. Yes, Captain.
No, it's original series episodes, so
okay.
No Wesley.
Oh, okay. Well, that's disappointing. Mr. Spock, come to my ready room. Okay, anyway. Now that I'm done thinking about that. How many words of Spock and Kirk / fiction do you think exist on the internet?
Oh, I'm sure that there's like infinity words of Spock and Kirk.
It's like
slash fiction.
What order of magnitude do you think? Like, we're talking like hundreds of millions, billions.
It's a good question. Hold on. Well, let's look at see what we can find, because that's a Google thing that I want.
Right.
The algorithm being like, this is the sort of things he's interested in.
It's like when the police come to search your Google history, they're not going to find anything incriminating, but they're going to find lots of like Kirk Spock sex.
I like for these adult fan fictions, under the TV category, the top level categories are Stargate SG-1, CSI, Supernatural, Smallville, and Star Trek. Wow.
It's a weird list of shows.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I assume that if they're top level, that's because they have the most written, but that's interesting. Yeah, there's a lot.
CSI, there's sex. I don't know. I haven't.
Anyway.
I'm way behind on my CSI, so I don't know.
You're way behind on your CSI sex.
All right. Let's right this ship here. So,
too late.
We open disturbingly on Quark in the throes of Umok's pleasure, negotiating a deal to unload 100 gross of self-sealing stim bolts.
Are these the same stim bolts from before?
Immediately, I'm like, didn't those stim bolts get sold for those 7 terapates of land?
Yeah, like they definitely got traded to some people on Bajor, the people who originally ordered them, and so presumably did need them.
Right. Maybe they just never came and picked up the stim bolts or something.
That would be.
I think Ira Stephen Bear and Robert Hewitt Wolf were like, wasn't there something about 100 gross? Because I'm pretty sure it was 100 gross also of self-sealing stim bolts, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll sound so smart if we call back to that.
Let's see. Let's double check how many. It was okay. So they traded 5,000 rapages of Yamak sauce for 100 gross of self-sealing stim bolts.
Yep. But these stim bolts will apparently allow someone to triple production of their reverse ratcheting routing planers, or planners, or whatever.
Yep, this is very, very important.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a whole novel about this. The customer's ready to seal the deal, but Quark sees no need to rush, because he's like Nog. He's got a little bit of a perv streak in him, I guess.
It's true. Should have got that deal signed.
Yeah, if he was a real see, this is what's holding Quark back, is this stuff right here.
Exactly. Honestly, like either this lady's not good at what she does, or like they've never tried to source any self-sealing stem bolts before, because apparently like this is not as good a deal as she thinks.
Right.
We later discover. Also, I just looked up the reverse ratcheting routing planer, and it says, essentially an in-joke on Technobabble, the function and nature of this item are unknown. And then Michael Okuda tweeted, everyone knows self-sealing stem bolts are used for reverse ratcheting routing planers.
Right. I mean, that's their primary use.
Apparently, yeah.
It's like that. Have you ever seen that? I mean, it's like an ancient joke in engineering circles of this guy pitching this new machine that his company makes, and like every word is just nonsense, but he pitches it in such like a straight, like deadpan, convincing manner.
I don't think I've seen that.
I'll try to find it, put the link in the description. There's like several versions of it going back like through the ages. Like every once in a while, I guess someone makes a new one or whatever.
Oh man, a prop self-sealing stem bolt was sold at the the big 40 years of Star Trek auction. Lot 418 sold for $2,000 or $2,040.
Nice.
After being estimated for $200 to $300. So somebody really wanted that stem bolt.
They are interrupted by Rom, who seems to have urgent news. He is followed quickly by Mayhardu, and a mysterious figure we don't see for some reason, but he is wielding the Nagus stick.
Kiss it?
Yeah, which does not get kissed, I don't think. Because I was looking, I was like, is he going to kiss it? But they stroll into Quark's quarters like they own the place. This scene kind of confused me, because I was like, did they not have Wallace Shawn for this day? Or
yeah, they just disguise somebody else.
At first I thought it might have been like not a reshoot, but what do you call, I guess a reshoot, where, because they needed a scene to explain the Nagus coming. My theory was that the first scene was Quark staying in Rom's quarters, and
so it's like a pickup.
Yeah. But then that doesn't make sense, because then the stim bolts get called back to later. So
it's true.
I don't know. So yeah, they stroll into Quark's quarters like they own the place.
Yeah, it's honestly kind of weird, because it's like the Grand Nagus can't get his own quarters.
Right. Well, okay. I don't know, because this is the new improved Grand Nagus, right? So
it's true.
Maybe he's like, he wants to save as much money as possible for his benevolent society. Meanwhile, Dr. Bashir is hard at work on something when he is summoned by Commander Sisko. It turns out to be a surprise celebration, as Dr. Bashir has been nominated for the coveted Carrington Award for outstanding achievement in the field of excellence or something.
There's a fun note about the story, the origins of the plot of Bashir being nominated for the Carrington Award. So apparently
plot
it's
used very
kind
loosely
of
here.
Well, yeah. It's like based on an in-joke among the staff, because during the 7th season of The Next Generation, it was nominated for Best Dramatic Series at the Emmy Awards. Nobody gave it the slightest chance to win, because usually science fiction shows did not win awards like that. Everyone expected NYPD Blue to win. However, despite the unlikely event of a victory, some members of the Next Generation team became convinced they were actually going to win. As it turned out, they did not. But neither did NYPD Blue. Instead, the award went to the unexpected Picket Fences.
I remember that show existing.
I've heard the name. That's all I got.
I remember like seeing promos that were like, on the next Picket Fences, but I could not tell you what that show was about.
No, I'm having to look it up because you said that. So, the series follows the lives of residents of the small town of Rome, Wisconsin, where weird things happen, including cows' udders exploding and people turning up dead in freezers.
So it's one of those kinds of shows.
The show dealt with unusual topics for primetime television of the period, such as abortion, incest, homophobia, LGBT adoption, racism, belief in God, medical ethics, polygamy, polyamory, and on and on.
Polyamory, you say?
Yeah. Spontaneous human combustion. Wow, okay.
It's about time someone tackled the tough subject of spontaneous human combustion.
Pretty sure X-Files did that at some point.
They absolutely did. But I like that one of the nominees is described as a chirurgeon, which is a old-timey word for surgeon.
Oh.
Which I have only ever read in books and did not know how it was pronounced. And
I don't know that I've ever even heard that.
And I assumed Avery Brooks had never seen it either when he said it, because I was like, that can't be how that's pronounced. But sure enough, I looked it up, and it is. So,
shh, cat, go away.
So either Avery Brooks looked it up too, or...
I'm looking up these people to see which one that was. Is it Guy Petrel? Yep.
I do not remember.
Chirurgeon on Andoria. Apparently, there's a note in here that this is the first time Andoria has been mentioned in Star Trek.
Is that the... wait.
It's like the home planet of the Andorians, but I guess it had never been established before that it was called Andoria.
Okay. Gotcha, okay. So we had the Andorians, but we just never knew what planet they came from.
Yep. So, chirurgeon is in reality an antiquated term for surgeon, though the fact that Dr. Bashir chose to use this particular term instead of surgeon might indicate that the terms are not completely equivalent in the Star Trek universe.
I don't know.
Stop it, cat. Apparently, Guy Petrel is mentioned in the novel Articles of the Federation, set in 2380, where he is head of Starfleet Medical.
Oh, wow.
In that book, he is a Caitian who was raised on Andor and holds Andorian medical qualification. This was done to explain why Petrel's name does not follow Andorian naming conventions established in the Deep Space Nine relaunch novels.
Wow, I was like, when did we ever hear these naming conventions? But
how many Caitians have we seen other than, let's see. I mean, Dr. Tayana on Lower Decks as Acacian, but other than that, I don't remember it coming up much. Cat, you have got to stop. Do you remember ever running into Acacian?
If I've ever seen one, it was not announced what species that was.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Anyway, everybody is happy for Dr. Bashir, but Bashir seems uneasy and quickly excuses himself.
Really, I don't really care what your mood is or what you think you're going to win or not win. That was an extremely rude thing to do.
Yeah. And it's just the setup is just like, wow, what an intriguing mystery that will surely pay off in some satisfying way. It's like, oh man, why doesn't Dr. Bashir want this prize? Did Carrington kill his father? But later he explains to Dax that he considers himself unlikely to win, as the Carrington Award is considered a lifetime achievement award in the field of medicine, and he is too young to be seriously considered. All the same, he gets annoyed when Dax quickly pivots to wondering which of the other nominees will win.
Well, I thought it was more he was annoyed because she was like, okay, I'll stop talking about it, and then immediately keeps talking about it.
Then we cut to Quark waking up, going to the replicator, and uttering the most disgusting phrase I've ever heard. A cup of millipede juice. Hold the shells. The replicator grants his wish.
For being millipede juice, I was like, okay, that doesn't look as disgusting as I expected. Maybe if you hadn't held the shells.
He is clearly not having a good time staying with Rom, who has a suspicious amount of Quark's stock laying around.
I mean, okay, so the one empty bottle. Fine. Especially apparently it was under some stuff on the couch for some reason. I'm like, yeah, you probably should have hidden your like bottle of Saurian brandy better that you stole, but whatever. And then, as if for the first time in days, Quark is looking at the place he is living in. He's like, wait, what's this case of Trixian bubble juice hiding under this blanket?
Yeah. What's under this, like, reveal curtain thing?
And then he's just like, also, that table and that chair. And it's just like, how are you just now noticing any of this?
But I gotta give him some credit, because this sets up Rom's penchant for embezzling, which pays off later in the episode.
Yeah, probably shouldn't have surprised anyone. You know, he's a Ferengi.
Right. I mean, you're expected to do that kind of stuff in Ferengi culture.
Also, how do you even know the chair came from the bar? Or do you have, like, branded bar chairs or something? Like, okay, whatever.
Who knows? But Quark decides he's had enough and storms across the corridor to expel the Nagus from his quarters.
Or to make Rom do it.
Yeah, hide sheepishly to the side while Rom kicks him out. Fortunately, the Nagus seems to be in a good mood. He invites them in to Quark's own quarters, and excitedly presents Quark and Rom with what he announces will be his great legacy, a revised rules of acquisition.
Also, after finding out that he has gotten rid of everything from Quark's quarters, which
right.
I was like, geez, did he really, like, throw it out, or is it stored?
Yeah. Because it was in the way of his work. So yeah. Don't you need, like, a desk to write on if you're doing this work? Quark is excited to be the first to benefit from the Nagus' profitable wisdom, but is soon disappointed when the rules turn out to be nice. What was the first rule? It's like, if they want their money back, give it to them.
Yep, that's the first one.
That's not a very Ferengi rule.
If they want their money back, give it to them?
I like that book prop, though. That was really cool. Like,
yeah, it's a nice book. I agree.
It seemed to have stuff written on it. I'm sure it was like the same page, photocopied over and over, but still.
Probably something like that. I mean, it was all in Ferengi, so who knows?
Right. Quark's mind scrambles to all kinds of possibilities. A test, a secret code, some kind of hidden flavor. But nothing makes sense.
When he licks it, I was just like, wow, okay. And like, he really gives it a good deal of consideration when he licks it. And then he's like, how does it... Ew, no, ew, never mind.
I don't know. Like, for a second, he seems to think he's onto something. But then he's like, no. That's Armin Sherman. Just this whole episode is just like playing it all up.
Yeah, he's really, really doing well this one.
Yeah. Quark holds fast to the idea that this is part of some grand plan by the Nagus. But plan for what? Who knows? Later, the Nagus comes to Quark's bar and buys the whole joint a round of drinks. But, disturbingly, the Nagus no longer has a taste for beetle snuff. Because it's not fun for the beetles.
Yep. I mean, I assumed that it was replicated, but whatever.
Yeah. And also, like, so is he just like a full-on vegan now? Or
excellent question. I mean, apparently they eat a lot of bugs on Ferengi, or the juice of the bugs, so who knows?
Yeah. Maybe you can juice the bugs without killing them or hurting them. Also, the Nagus has ruined Quark's stem bolts deal by directing the buyer to a wholesaler. That's just as un-Ferengi as it gets.
Yeah, Quark's like, wholesale? Like, it's the most outrageous thing ever.
Wholesale? It's like the biggest sin ever. Then we get the scene where down in the cargo bay, Bashir and O'Brien play darts, while O'Brien relentlessly trolls Bashir about the prize.
He's trying to, throw Bashir off his dart throwing game, which kind of works until Bashir turns the tables on him. But I do like, so originally, like this, there's a dart board clearly in this episode, as you just mentioned. Originally, they apparently wanted to do a pool table, but then the people making Voyager are like, no, we're going to have a pool table. You cannot have a pool table. And honestly, apparently, I don't even remember the pool table in Voyager, but then I looked up and apparently it does show up in like a good half dozen episodes. So
yeah, I don't remember ever seeing a pool table, but
it's in the holodeck. But
apparently, only one can exist in Starfleet.
Right, and so then they're like, maybe we'll have them playing cards, and there's like, no, they did that on the Next Generation. You can't have them playing cards. So that is how we landed on dartboard.
Nice. Is this like these dart sound effects are very familiar sounding?
I kind of thought the same thing, but I also thought maybe it was just because I'd heard the dart sound effects plenty of times on this show.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is like, is this the first time that they like use these dart sound effects, or?
I don't know. Let me see. Let me see if I can find any information on the dartboard here. Like we couldn't just keep playing racquetball. Maybe the set would have been too much trouble to revisit all the time.
Yeah, that would have been a pain to shoot because you'd have to have like Bashir hitting a good shot at a good time and then messing up his shot at the right time.
That's true too. It doesn't mention.
Also, yeah, that racquetball set was probably. But yeah, anyways, Quark comes into his quarters to find it has been turned into the headquarters of the Ferengi Benevolent Association, of which Rom is now the senior administrator. Rom is excited for the Nagus' announcement of the new rules, but Quark is certain the Nagus will be thrown from the Tower of Commerce.
Along with that.
And apparently this wasn't obvious enough, they felt, so they had to explain that the Tower of Commerce is a tall building.
That is the tallest building in the Ferengi Alliance.
Right.
Not just a tall building, come on.
Right, but I mean, when you say someone's going to be thrown from a tower, I assume that the tower is tall enough that will kill them.
True, yeah.
Like, just based on the context.
But it's funny in the episode, because, like, Quark tells Rom, who already knows, and Rom's like, but that's the tallest tower in the Ferengi... Like, Rom does not understand that when you say thrown off a building, it means dead, until he considers that, like, but wait a second, if they throw us off that, it will be bad, because it's a super tall building.
Right. It was just a very weird, like, little joke. Because, like, did they put that in there? Because there was like, are they going to understand that this Tower of Commerce is a tall building, and that would be a bad thing? They might think that throwing people off of towers is a celebration in Ferengi society. I do not know. Anyway, Quark takes the Nagus to Bashir, who gives him a flawless bill of health, which maybe they should have taken him to that one guy doing gerontological research.
Well, I mean, he does, like, as they're leaving, sarcastically make a comment about, like, maybe we should get an appointment with Dr. Wade. Was he the one doing, or April Wade, I guess that could be a male or a female name.
Yeah.
Was that the one doing gerontological research?
I think it was a different one doing gerontological research. I think Patel was doing the gerontological research, but I'm not sure.
Petrel, you mean?
Whatever. Peter Petrelli?
No, not Peter Petrelli. That's a whole other... Okay, Yep, you're right. It was Guy Petrel doing the gerontological research.
Nice.
Good call.
So as they leave, the Nagus gives Bashir a generous tip, which Bashir keeps.
Well, I mean, he's like, I can't take that. And he's like, oh, it's just money. Give it to a charity if you want. And Bashir's like, yeah, all right. Really, I'm going to use this at the Dabo tables to try to pick up a Dabo girl later, but whatever.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then the Nagus announces his intention to give a mysterious gift to the Bajoran people. This prompts Quark and Rom to attempt to break into the Nagus' shuttle. Rom, who was previously like an expert lockpick, is now just hitting it with a hammer and chisel. They are caught by Mayhardu, who uses the clicker to let them into the shuttle. He's like, toot, toot, bzz.
Yeah, Mayhardu is also very upset about what's going on with
Right.
Zek, so.
Yeah, earlier we saw him like crying. So inside the shuttle, they find a Bajoran orb. Quark is sure that the orb is behind whatever is going on with the Nagus. In a struggle with Rom, he accidentally opens it and has a weird vision of being on the Dabo table while Zek taunts him.
Yeah, I don't know what that was about, honestly.
Just those orbs. This gives Quark an aha moment. Somehow the prophets got in Zek's head. He investigates Zek's logs and finds that Zek acquired the orb, then went into the wormhole. From this, he deduces that Zek attempted to make contact with the prophets to get future knowledge, and somehow it went wrong. Down in the Replimat, or up in the Replimat, wherever, Dr. Bashir enjoys a cup of coffee and is joined by Odo. It seems Odo has a friend who has a cousin who is married to the assistant of one of the members of the council who are judging the Carrington Prize. Bashir denies interest, but Odo calls him out on writing his acceptance speech.
Yeah, I like that Odo made a guess at that and was completely on point.
He's like, how'd you know? He's like, just a guess.
Because you're super full of yourself, Bashir, so right. we know.
Just everybody's just in full-on troll mode on Dr. Bashir this episode. So, yeah, Zek is in his office or whatever doing generous stuff when he is literally thrown in a sack by Quark, Rom, and Mayhardu.
It's true.
They, minus Rom, take the Nagus' shuttle and fly back to the wormhole. Quark uses the orb to contact the wormhole aliens, who are annoyed.
I like about the scene with Zek. It's one of the few comments about the episode it has in here from first-time director René Auberjonois is that he says his manservant is carrying him around in the corner in a sack, and as they come around the corner, Quark sticks his head out first, and then Rom sticks his head out underneath, and they both tiptoe down the hallway. When we staged it, I thought, this is so Marx Brothers that Ira is going to be horrified. But in fact, he was delighted with it. There were several times that I wondered, am I going too far with it? Because humor is a pretty tricky thing in Star Trek.
I did notice that, and I was like, man, they are having too much fun. But so the wormhole aliens confirm that they were disturbed by Zek's attempts to know the future, which from their encounter with Sisko, they know to be a no-no.
Yep, and they're using the same metaphors where they're like, Sisko described it as a game, and the prophets are like, yeah, he was trying to know the outcome of the game before it was played.
Yeah, so, they're using the same kind of like, language from their, I guess, only previous encounter with a corporeal being.
Yeah, according to them.
So, yeah, anyway, they de-evolved Zek into a nice person.
Gasp. The horror. Yep.
Quark tries to sell them a line about people being allowed to make mistakes and evolve on their own, but they don't seem interested. So he switches tack to telling them that if they don't change the Nagus back, more people will come into the wormhole and bother them.
Yep.
This seems to do the trick. They send Quark back, who finds the Nagus back to his old self and excited to price gouge the Bajorans for the orb.
Yeah, I mean, given that do they still only have one orb? Like, they're probably going to pay a lot of money for this. Like,
well, that's what I was thinking, because there was the orb that they gave Sisko in the pilot or whatever, which presumably he gave back at some point.
Right. You would think.
And there's also Vedic Bareil's sex orb.
Yep.
Were those the same orb? Or...
I thought they were... Hold on, let me see what I can look up about these orbs. So...
Because, like, that first orb he got from Opaka.
Right. Let's see.
So, did she just give it to him after Cisco gave it back, or?
The Orb of Prophecy and Change was kept in a monastery led by Vedic Burial. The way it describes it here, the orb that Burial has, it references both Emissary and the Circle, the episodes. So that makes it sound like it was the same one. And there's not that many orbs that we know of. Let's see. This one in this episode is the Orb of Wisdom, which I don't know that it was given Quark any sort of wise revelations, but maybe I'm not wise enough to have understood them. So there's 3 other specific orbs, and it doesn't say where they come from.
So the Bajorans now officially have 2 orbs back.
Yep, at least. There's a mention, or there was a mention, apparently, not too long ago, that they were negotiating for the return of the orbs. That's in the episode Life Support, right. So it's a very recent episode.
Right.
So we don't know for sure that they haven't gotten one back since then, but...
Yeah. So we wrap up the Bashir story when everybody gathers to watch the Carrington Award ceremony. Bashir does not win. It goes to Dr. Roget, much to everyone's consternation, especially Bashir's.
Yeah, he's apparently really broken up about it.
Yep. Then Quark sees the Nagus off the station, while the Nagus is back to enjoying his Betel snuff. How about beetle snuff?
Dr. Bashir told him he needs to cut that stuff out.
Yeah, come on. Well, I mean, he's the Nagus. Think he's going to listen? Once the Nagus is gone, Rom admits to embezzling from the Benevolent Association. Quark is impressed and pleased. The two walk down the corridor, arm in arm, laughing together. The end.
Yeah, Rom really shouldn't have given his brother any of that money, I gotta say. That wasn't very Ferengi.
Yeah. But it all worked out. They turned the Nagus back evil, and they stole some money.
That's what really matters. This was the only episode in which Tiny Ron, who plays Mayhardu, speaks, although he speaks, as the prophet version of Mayhardu.
I thought that was a little cool touch where...
Yeah.
It's because, sometimes they get too, cute with their little, this character never speaks or something. It's this is totally a situation where we might hear Mayhardu speak.
We've already got Morn. You don't need that many people who don't speak, let's be honest.
Yeah. We can't... Oh, and Morn's back, by the way.
Yay!
We saw him.
After he got poisoned in a recent episode.
Right. He seems to be doing okay, and back at Quark's.
You can't keep him down for long.
Right. He's like, bad... So it's gave me some bad Kanar. Oh, well.
It was free, though.
Yeah. It's he's wearing a giant cowboy hat with a camera in it.
So it's got one more comment on his first time directing. Renee says, "It's incredibly hard work. One has to make so many decisions, and I'm not a person who particularly likes to make decisions." That's what you have to do when you're directing. It's like you're answering one question and someone else is asking you another question. It's endless. A bit like leading an army into battle. It's just more than I ever expected. I'm like, what did you think being a director was?
Did you ask to direct the episode, or did they just make him do it?
I assumed that cast members have to actively pursue a directing opportunity.
Right. It's nobody wanted to direct the episode. They were like, "Hey, Renee, I know you want to direct, right?"
He's just like, "I thought it was an extra paycheck. I didn't realize how annoying it would be. Everyone asking you questions. Jeez." So the most interesting to me note in here is that the origins of this, of the Zek part of this, come from Ira Steven Bear's early career when he was trying to make it in Hollywood and wrote a teleplay for the TV show Taxi entitled Uncle Sylvester. So did you watch Taxi?
I did watch Taxi. I remember very few episodes of it.
Okay, well, I want to make sure that you understood who the character of Louis was before I continued to read this. But
okay,
so the plot revolved around Louis's uncle Sylvester, who had built up a reputation for being a shameless womanizer and an altogether unpleasant individual, but he was Louis's hero. So Louis is dying to meet him and impress him with his own womanizing abilities, but when Sylvester arrives, he no longer enjoys womanizing and now just wants to get back together with his wife. Louis is heartbroken and becomes convinced that Sylvester has undergone some kind of deep psychological trauma.
So basically the same plot.
It ends with, the teleplay was not purchased by the producers of Taxi. Just in case you were wondering.
He's like, someday I'm going to see this plot on TV. It was very weird because that one also ended with a trip into a wormhole to get aliens to fix him.
That's probably what it was, yeah.
They're like, this isn't really what Taxi is about.
So the other thing that I would touch on is the rules of acquisition. It's got there's a table in here with like the new rule and the old rule. Most of them are like comparative.
Sure.
So like it mentions in the episode that the original rule number 10 is greed is eternal, but now it's greed is dead. The original rule number 1 was once you have their money, you never give it back.
Right. I think we've heard that one before. If they
want their money back, give it to them. Yeah, I think we probably have too. 21 was originally never place friendship above profit, and now it says never place profit before friendship. 22 is the only one that does not seem to compare. The new one is Latinum tarnishes, but family is forever, whereas the old one is a wise man can hear profit in the wind. And then we got 2 more. Money can never replace dignity is the new one. The old one was nothing is more important than your health except for your money. And then a good deed is its own reward is the new final rule. And the original 285 is no good deed ever goes unpunished.
Yep. I think we've heard that one before.
Yeah, I think we have. That's probably what they were basing them on. They're like, hey,
yeah,
which ones have we already heard?
Yeah. So that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can assume that they were all basically just the opposite of the old rules.
Yep, seems to be pretty much the case.
Yep. It's like war and peace are now bad for business.
I wonder about those. They are already 2 opposites, basically.
Well, yeah, they're not opposites. It's just like war is good for business, peace is good for business. Everything's good for business.
If you approach it the right way.
Yep. So, anyway, you want to just jump right into ratings?
Yeah, we can do some ratings.
All right. How would you rate... I was complimenting the title, but now I forgot it. Profit Motive.
There you go. So this is an interesting one because it's pretty much just comedy. Like they're doing a flat out comedy. It's not even like some of the previous ones that have been pretty comedic, like If Wishes Were Horses. They still are pushing really hard on the sci-fi story element. Here, the sci-fi bit where it's like, oh yeah, we have to change Zek back by talking to the wormhole aliens. It's honestly very secondary. They're just it's just comedy. Even the Bashir parts, it's like everyone is messing with him about the award. It's just comedy. Yeah. So I like when Star Trek does comedy. For the most part, like when it's a fun episode, I tend to enjoy it. This one, I feel like it goes a little hard on it. Like I'm just like, maybe tone it back a little bit and not just make a 100% comedy episode. But I like it okay. It doesn't stand out to me as like a great episode or even one that I remember all that much, but I enjoy it. I think I'm going to give it, it's going to be like a high-end lieutenant commander for me.
Yeah, I was thinking of, kind of along the same lines. I was thinking the main story. It was kind of teetering between like lieutenant commander and commander for me. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't necessarily object to like a pure comedy episode, especially, one with the Ferengi, because there's lots to mine there.
Yeah, if you're going to have Wallace Shawn on, then it needs to be funny.
And like totally Wallace Shawn. Although I feel like Wallace Shawn doesn't quite give as many opportunities to shine in this one. But
yeah, because he's having to be nice, and that doesn't work for the character well.
He's not like having loud Nagus sex in the Hollow Suite, then coming down and like chugging Tang out of a bottle or something like that.
Right.
So yeah, I mean there's some good like Quark and Rom moments. I think Quark and Rom are both pretty on point.
Yeah, we're really like just recently we were like we're finally getting to like Rom's character, and I feel like we're settling into it more still.
Yeah, totally. And I generally like the premise of the Nagus tried this thing, like he went into the wormhole and the wormhole aliens are like, what the heck is this? Just turn him nice and send him away. And then Quark going back and basically blackmailing the prophets into turning him back or whatever.
Yep.
The Bashir stuff, although it has some humorous moments, mostly I find totally pointless. So I think I'm just going to give it a lieutenant commander.
Okay.
Because it's... I mean, there's some likable stuff, but I feel like the overall execution just is it's a little bit meh at parts. So
yeah, for such a entertaining, weird, silly episode, it's not much to talk about, honestly.
Yeah, and that was another thing. It was like, because I was taking my notes, I was like flipping back through the scenes. I was like, what happens in this scene? It's like, oh. O'Brien trolls Bashir for 5 minutes or whatever. It's like there's not much to dive into there. Other than this is the introduction of Bashir and O'Brien playing darts.
Yep.
So I guess we're laying some groundwork for some future Deep Space Nine stuff, maybe, if they continue playing darts.
Who knows? Maybe they'll switch to pool after all.
Or maybe they'll play Domjot with Nog and Jake.
Yeah, why not use an existing game like Domjot that we know is already around? It does seem weird that we need to.
Yeah, they'd have to build a new Domjot table, and
that's true. Have we actually seen anybody? We've heard about people playing Domjot. Have we seen them playing Domjot in this series?
I think we wondered about this in another episode. It was like, where is this Domjot table?
Yeah,
because it doesn't seem to be in the main part of Quark's. So we assumed there's a back Domjot parlor somewhere.
you gotta know the password. It's like a speakeasy.
Yeah. It's like, what is the password? It's like, play Domjot, human? Yeah. So there is something a little thin about the episode. I agree.
When we get to the end of the episode, I was slightly surprised that Rom could get away with embezzling from the Nagus. Dumbest Ferengi steals from smartest Ferengi. But at the same time, I think the Nagus was just burn all of this to the ground. I want to pretend this never happened. So it actually maybe makes sense.
I mean, who knows what the Ferengi remembers of what happened while he was in nice Zek mode or whatever.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Does it kind of establish if he remembers what was going on?
I mean, he knows the orb, but he acts like his plan the whole time was to price gouge the Bajorans for the orb, so...
Well, I'm sure that's why he bought the orb in the first place, and then it was probably hey, while I've got it, I could try to do this other thing.
Right. Oh, yeah. So maybe just his memory between the two visits to the aliens is totally erased.
Could be.
He's gonna get home, he's like, where'd all my money go? Ferengi Benevolent Association? Rom?
We do find out that, I don't know that we knew it before, but it's his servant isn't a mute. They just only speak to their master. So that's an interesting note.
Didn't Mayhardu tell Odo a key piece of information at one point?
Did he? I don't recall.
Or no, maybe Odo, yeah, because it was when they thought that Zek was dead. And I think Odo saw Mayhardu and he just followed him. That's what happened. I was like, oh no, is there a plot hole? But no, I think that's what happened. Yeah, we can wrap it up there.
Okay.
Yep, that does it for us today. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. Check out the description where you may find links to interesting things, or you may find nothing, depending on how lazy I feel that day. I'm Fletcher, about to say goodbyes, Data.
Adios.
And unlike Quark and Rom continuously in this episode, do not forget to kiss the Nagus stick.